Hello everyone, my name is Sally and this is the very first podcast of my channel, Sally Stories. I remember when I was 11 or 12 years old, it was the very first time I got detention. One thing you should know about me is that when I was younger, I was always a good student. I always did the right thing. I never made mistake. I was the favorite student of every teacher. But then I make a mistake and I got really disappointed in myself. I found myself crying in the bathroom and was extremely sad. But then out of nowhere, I started talking to myself. I started to ask different questions like, why did you do that? Sally, why did you make that mistake? Why did you change? And after about 15 minutes, I felt a lot better. So I couldn't go back in time and erase that mistake. But at least I had a conversation with myself. I talked to myself and somehow I understood myself more. And then I started to have the conversation with myself over and over again. Whenever I make a mistake again, or whenever there's something bad happen that day, or even when something was happy, something happy happened, or even when I achieved something. Oh, before I can continue, I just want to say that I'm a full Vietnamese person and English is my second language. I'm very grateful for my parents who invested so much in my English education. But my English is not perfect and I stutter and sometimes my vocabulary use or sometimes my accent is kind of weird. So I hope you guys stick with me because what I'm trying to deliver through my podcast is the energy and my stories and the lesson I learned. And I just hope that you're going to gain positivity out of my podcast. Okay, back to my story. So, yeah, and when I was 16, 17 years old, and then I reached my early 20s, I do that very often. I talk to myself in the bathroom nearly every day. And I really enjoyed it. Later, I found out that that habit that I built, it's called self-reflection. So, what is self-reflection? Self-reflection is simply thinking about an action, something you said, something happened, and you ponder about it. Think about different aspects of that situation, or just analyze it. You know, just some time for yourself and with yourself. I think self-reflection is a fancy term for thinking about all the things you did. And I think all of us did that at least once in the past, and we are still doing it now. But I hope through my podcast and my sharings and through my stories, you can see that you can actually gain a lot of positivity out of self-reflection. And I'm going to tell you all the questions and all the things that I did when I started reflect. And I hope it gonna give you a new idea on how you're gonna self-reflect. And I hope all of us after this podcast gonna start making some time for yourself to self-reflect and have an efficient self-reflection session. Each of us has a very different way to self-reflect. Some people just want to keep in their thoughts, in their mind. Some people like writing things down, like keeping a diary. or whenever they feel like it, they just open the computer and jot down something. But some people, like me, I like to speak. I think in the most efficient way whenever I speak. My writing is not that bad, but my writing skill is not too fast I can catch up with my thoughts. So I always like to say things out loud whenever I have something stuck in my head or something I want to discuss about. Whenever I want to say something, I either want to talk to myself or talk to people around me. My husband or my sister, my best friends, or even my parents. Saying things out loud help my thoughts more organized and more connected. I think it's very important for all of us to take some time and think about which way is the most comfortable way for each of us to self-reflect. Because only by feeling comfortable, you'll be able to let your thoughts and let your feelings flow in the most natural and amazing way. I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a normal person who self-reflect quite often. And over time, I compile a list of questions that I found really helpful for my self-reflections. And I hope they do the same to you. My questions are categorized into three parts: the past, the present, and the future. Firstly, about the past. What did I do in the past about this matter? Who I was in the past? What did I learn? And what did I realize from the past? I think some of us, actually all of us, sometimes it's quite hard to think about the past. So just take your time. And whenever you feel comfortable, I think it can be very positive if you take some time to walk down the memory lane. Because by thinking about the past, you're preparing for your present and your future, which leads to our most important questions about the present. How am I doing now? What am I doing now? How do I feel? Who I am today? What am I doing now to prepare for my future? I think life nowadays is very busy. I mean, the pandemic does slow us down a little bit, but still, it's like we're hustling every day. We're in a race or something. And not all of us remember to take some time to think about how your feelings. What are your current feelings? To check up on yourself. I think it's very important for all of us to do it often, Check up on how you feel, because you are your best friend. Actually, thinking about the present sometimes is very pressuring, especially when you compare to yourself in the past. Sometimes when you talk to yourself about the past and then the present, you find that you're doing a lot better in present. You're like 2 steps forward, even 5 steps, 10 steps forward. And you feel really proud of yourself, which is really nice. And you deserve all of that positive and all of that congratulations. You should feel like that. And it's amazing. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes you think about the past and you think about the present and you feel embarrassed. I had that feeling a lot. Sometimes I feel ashamed of myself for who I am today when I compare to myself in the past. When I was about 19, 20 years old, about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, I was so lost. I was heartbroken. I was lost. I was really upset. I didn't know what to do about my life. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what I want. I didn't know anything. I had identity crisis and I was constantly embarrassing myself. And I did a lot of things that make people around me upset, especially my parents, even though I don't want them to be that sad. But somehow I intentionally hurt the people I love. And during that time, whenever I see a photo or something that reminded myself when I was in high school, which was 2 or 3 years before that, when I was 16 or 17. So imagine me when I was 19, thinking about myself when I was 16. And I feel really embarrassed because me when I was in high school, to me, personally, is awesome. I was putting myself out there. I was trying my very best in everything. I was achieving. I was loved. Everyone loved me. I was so cool. And then there's me when I was 19, lost, broken, sad. And when I was 19, I constantly asked myself, how can I go back to that time? How could I be that awesome when I was in high school? How can I be that again? But all of that feelings were valid. All of those embarrassing feelings. When you feel embarrassed, you shouldn't feel embarrassed by feeling embarrassed. You deserve to feel sometimes negative. And it's okay. We're all humans. But I hope that when you feel like you reached the rock bottom, there's only way for you to go. And that way is up. That's what I told myself. When I hit the rock bottom, when I'm extremely depressed, I told myself that I deserve to be better. I deserve to try my best. And I deserve to be taken care of by myself. And I didn't give up anything. I tried and I tried. And I do feel a little bit better every day. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes when you think about your past, you may feel a little bit heavy about your future, about your present and your future. But that's okay. You're actually a very responsible person. And sense of responsibility is probably one of the most important factors to success and self-love, in my opinion. And then you start thinking about your future. And I have to admit, thinking about a future is sometimes also very pressuring. You know, when you think about like, oh, look at all my friends. They are all married. They are all having kids. They're all achieving, you know. And where I'm going to be in the next 5 years. And I think you don't need to think about that far. Future is literally the next hour. Future is tomorrow. Future is next month, next year. It doesn't need to be like 3 years kind of plan or 5 years kind of plan, 10 years kind of plan. I think it's okay that we are all figuring by ourselves. Like, in my country, in my culture, some people, when they haven't got married, when they're like 28 years old, everyone gonna look at them and be like, why haven't you got married yet? What's wrong with you? I think when you ask someone that you're 28, why haven't you got married? It's exactly the same when you ask someone like, you're 20, why you got married so early? Everyone has their own clock. Everyone is figuring themselves out. Getting married doesn't mean you got yourself figured out. You're still figuring yourself out after you get married. That's what I'm doing. I got married like 3 months ago and I'm still figuring myself out. Or becoming a CEO doesn't mean you got yourself figured out. It means that you work really hard and you achieve what you deserve. But it doesn't mean that that's like the end point. 70 years old, 80 years old, even 100 years old kind of people, we're all in the same journey, trying our best to make ourselves happy and making other people happy. Trying our best to be positive to ourselves and to other people and achieve what we want. So this is something I always tell my students. You don't need to think about what you want to be in the future. You don't need to think about your job. You just need to think about, next school year, what kind of students I want to be, what kind of friends I want to be. So these are the questions I use whenever I self-reflect. Focus on the past, the present, and the future. And sometimes I have these assuring sentences where I tell myself that, all right, you will face some certain pressures when you do all of these questions to yourself. And all of those pressures are valid and normal and predictable. Let yourself immerse in the emotions so that you can feel more comfortable to face other questions or other wonders. And slowly, you find your answers. The answers that make you feel happy and whole. There are 3 presents I received from self-reflection. The first one is analytic skill. I'm a very emotional person. I have so many sentiments, and sometimes I got carried away by my own emotions, and I overthink a lot. Self-reflection gave me a skill where I embrace my emotions to the best. I embrace them, I respect them, I nurture them. Self-reflection doesn't mean that I have to push away my emotions. Self-reflection means that I acknowledge my emotions. Again, I embrace them. I treat them the way they should be treated, the way that they deserve to be treated, in the most grateful and sincere way. And then I will put those emotions aside and let my brain and my body to analyze the problem in the most logical way. So gradually, self-reflections give me opportunities to balance between my emotions and my thinking, which help me become a much more balanced person. The second gift I received are experiences. The knowledge, the experiences, the lessons that I will be able to use over and over again to analyze many different problems and to tell them to the future generations, including my students and my kids, if I have kids. And finally, and I think is the best present I get from self-reflection, is understanding and compassion. By self-reflecting, I understand myself more, and therefore I understand the people around me more. I understand my best friends, my friends who are same my age, who probably going through the same problems and having the same wonders. I understand my husband more, to understand his culture, understand where he is always coming from. I understand my sister, and most of all, I understand my parents. I understand my roots, understand my genes, understand the traits that has been carried on from their generation to my generation. I understand our similarities and understand our differences. And all of that come together, all of those understanding make me a much more lovable, much more compassionate person. Lovable is not really a correct word. I was trying to say that I just become more calm and understanding. And that is the best gift that self-reflection has given me. I would love to see myself who ready to understand other people, who's ready to listen from their stories and ready to understand from their point of view, rather than always try to prove myself or try to prove myself against other people. I like that image, the conversations I have with myself every single day. Or whenever I'm busy, once a week. I think self-reflection shouldn't be something that a big thing, like a big event. It should be as normal as eating, as drinking water. Whenever you have some time for yourself, like after a whole morning of working, you take some time to look out the window and reflect on what did you eat this morning? What did you drink this morning? Did you drink enough water? And what did you say? Was there anything you say that was kind of weird to your colleagues? And were you productive today? You know, just a normal thinking about your morning. I like seeing myself trying to understand my students. I'm teaching about 20 kids who are becoming teenagers, like early teenagers, 13, 14. And whenever I see them, I feel really happy because they remind me of myself when I was their age. They remind me of all the memories, all the lessons. And even though I'm really mad at them sometimes, like they don't do their homework or they try to be stubborn, but I want to be the teacher that always try to think in their shoes and always ask them their stories. I am very grateful for all the present I received from self-reflection. I would like to conclude my podcast with a saying. Sometimes you will find yourself making the same mistake, and that's okay. Sometimes, whenever I self-reflect, or I just had an argument with my mom or my friend, I was really angry and I was really upset. And I told myself, I have been self-reflecting about this matter over and over again for the last 5 years. And I have still have the same problem, still have the same mistake. I still say the same words. I still act the same way. I didn't even change. I felt like all this short reflection went to waste. But then I took a moment and I think to myself, it's okay. Because we're all human. It sounds pretty cliche, but it's true that in Vietnamese we have a saying, you can move a mountain, but sometimes you cannot change a person. And sometimes we say that sentence out loud, to mock someone, or when you're really angry about someone, like you haven't changed anything or something like that. But I would like to take this moment to say that how can you be completely a different person? I believe we are all born as nice people. We are all unique. We all have our own things that a little bit quirky, a little bit annoying for other people. And I think growing up means that you should acknowledge all the unique things about yourself and learn to categorize them. Some habits are really bad and toxic, and we should learn to erase it from our personality completely. But some habits can be considered as bad, but they can be forgivable. They can be bad in a situation, but they can be good in another situation. For example, I'm a very emotional person. And the truth is, I can never be someone who is very good at controlling their emotions. But growing up means I try to balance and try to control my emotions in the most efficient way. And I think we all should learn how to understand ourselves in the way that we learn which habit and which weakness, which mistake we should learn to erase it, minimize it as much as possible, make it disappear. But some, we can turn it into a positive thing. And it's okay if you make the same mistake over and over again. Because we're all learning. And it's important to acknowledge which one to keep, to utilize, to minimize the negativity, to maximize the positivity, and which one we should try our very best to erase it. Recently, I read an article about a computer that they learn how to play chess very, very efficiently. So at first, computers weren't good at chess, but after every single match that they lose, they will learn a mistake and they will never make the same wrong move again. Congratulations, computer. You're really cool. But we're not a computer, right? Sometimes our imperfections make us different and make us connected. I hope this podcast has brought you so much positivity. This is the first time I record a podcast in English. I hope it will be well received, and I'm very open for feedback. My goal is to produce and deliver meaningful content. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I wish you all so much good health, safety, success, and most of all, happiness with your loved ones. Once again, thank you so much for listening to Sally's Stories. See you next time.